for the upliftment of the society now. So that's why this history is very important for us as to know Ramadivat Pravartitavyam na Ravanadivat. It's a model for us. So total history, it acts as guide, it acts as friend for us, and it acts as philosopher. And entirely it will be with us for comparison of what is going on now and what best we can do from the history. Yes. Let's learn from Kautilya's Arthashasthra. What best we can learn now in a limited period of time. Kautilya, we know all. We know his name, his magnum opus, Arthashasthra. And for a surprising factor is, most of the Sanskrit composers, poets, we don't know about their date, life, achievements, and even the exact name as we can mention Kalidasa. But luckily, we know the date of Kautilya. It is almost before 321 BC. How we could know that so accurately? Yes, it's very clear. Chandragupta Maurya became the king in 321 BC. So, we can very well understand and come to conclusion that Kautilya was before 321 BC and the accuracy is according to the date. And Arthashasthra, it may be assigned between 321 and 300 BC. Names of Kautilya, Chanakya, and Vishnugupta, these are the names. He was the son of Chanaka, that's why he is called as Chanakya. Kautilya, both the names are used. Kutilasya bhavaha iti heltare. Agre, Kautilya, Chanakya, they are the two major names ascribed to Kautilya. Kautilya, he was not the king but kingmaker. Kingmaker has to face the hurdles more than the king. Let us see. He was an erudite and Paramaguru and minister of Chandragupta Maurya, as we all know. And he is the author of magnum opus, Arthashasthra. Let's come to the life history. As far as the story is concerned, it is exactly we cannot authorize. Once Chanakya, he went to the Arthashasthra in Magadha, where Nandas were ruling. Nandas were very famous for cruelty. They were not looking after the subjects, prajas. So Chanakya, out of hunger, he went to Arthashasthra. Nandas were there. They rejected him out of Arthashasthra, almost adinda tallidru. He had shikhe in his head. Adu bichoitu. Then he made a pratigna. Yes, I will lift Nandas from the throne. It is sure. He did not know why, how means, in which means, he did not know, but he decided. On the way, walking from the Chhatra, ಒಂದು ದರ್ಭೆ ಕುಶ ಮೊನಚಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಅವನ ಕಾಲಿಗೆ ಚುಚ್ಚಿಕೊಳ್ತು. Immediately he put off that and thrown away. Chandragupta, he was seeing all this and he decided, yes, Chanakya will be his Paramaguru. He just went there, he surrendered himself wholeheartedly and completely, and then the real heroism story, it's not story, it's history, began. We have to consider that there was no money, no power, no army, No, friends. Only one side Chandragupta, one side Chanakya. They were combined together, and through Chanakya's talent in using Samadana, Bheda, Danda, Chandragupta, he became the emperor of Magadha and totally India. It is totally the achievement of Kautilya, we can say. Yes, about Arthashasthra. Arthashasthra was written in 321 BC. But due to the invention of foreigners, example from Alexander till Britishers, all of them, they demolished the temples. Sir? Sir? ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಎಸ್ ಲೆಟ್ ಮಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗ್ರಂಥಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನಾಶ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಫಾರಿನರ್ಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ವಿ ಕುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಅರ್ಥಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ವ್ಯಾನಿಶ್ಡ್ and the finding of Arthashastra book, the credit goes to Vidwan or Shama Shastri. He was the senior research scholar in Oriental Research Institute, Mysore. You might have seen this Prachya Vidya Samshodhanalaya, which is nearby Crawford Hall. You can visit. There are thousands of together manuscripts and books are there. You can have a look at that. In 1909, he published this Arthashastra with introduction. So, the credit goes to Vidwan R. Shama Shastri, and 2009 was celebrated as centenary celebration of publication of Arthashastra throughout India. First, it was in form leaf in Tanjore Grantha script with commentary of Bhattaswami.
नितिन जी आपका माइक को म्यूट कर दीजिए नितिन जी आपका माइक म्यूट करिए
Sir, can I talk?
yes madam please
Yes, sir. Arthashastra is totally practical manual of statecraft and administration. Some ascribe that he has written other works also as Dhatu Kautilya, Chanakya Rajaniti, Chanakya Niti Sutra, etc. And the Chanakya Niti Sutra, it is like the abridged form of the famous lines from Arthashastra. We have 6 Sanskrit commentaries and 1 Malayalam commentary as Pratipada Chandrika of Bhattaswami. Yes, let us continue about the introduction of Arthashastra. The total book is divided into 15 books, that is Adhikarana, 150 chapters, that is like Adhyaya, and 180 sections, that is Prakaranas. All the main theories are in Sutra form. Sutra forms means, let me give one example. A plus B whole square, this is the Sutra. When we expand this, A square plus 2AB plus B square comes and we have to get the knowledge of that. Chanakya has written Arthashastra in Sutra form. Usually, let me quote one example. Bhagavad Gita was written and there are number of bhashyas written on later period. But as far as Arthashastra is concerned, Chanakya himself wrote bhashya and metrical composition. Why? Because he may be thought in process that what are all in Sutra form. The newcomers, they may not understand exactly what he intends to be explained. So he wrote bhashya and metrical composition. The total work covers administration, management, history, economics, sociology, criminology, civil architecture, etc., etc. Then the macro system was in practice. not microsystem. Yes, this work is translated in English, German, French, Russian, etc. And Bengali, Hindi, Kannada, etc. Indian languages. Madam, ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ? Sorry. Sorry, 1 minute, please. Madam? ಇದು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ?
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. ಹಲೋ,
ಮೂವ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದೆ.
Yes,
ಹಲೋ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
I will
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದೆ.
continue in 1 minute. ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು?
ಅದು ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ. ಅವಾಗ
Okay.
ಡಬಲ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಹಾಗೂ ಈಗ ಸರಿನಾ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್?
Yes. First, Kautilya, he confirms why he wrote this, how he wrote this. He's very clear in all the points. He says, Prithivyaha labhe palanecha yavantyarthashastrani purvacharehi prasthapitani prayashastani samhritya skrutam ekam idam arthashastram, he says. It means he has written for Prithivyaha labhe palane, to acquire land. After acquiring land, sustainability is the most important factor. So, for acquiring the land and for the sustainability, palana of the land, he has written Arthashasthra. How he has written? He says, I am not the first one to write Arthashasthra. There are so many number of Arthashastrajnas. Example, Vatavyadhi, Pishuna, Shukracharya, Bharadwaja, etc. I have consolidated all their ideas in this work and concluded my decision. He says, here in this work, as the name itself suggests, Artha is the prominent factor rather than Dharma and Kama. Oh, how come it can become the magnum opus of the king? No, Artha is very important, but Dharma, it is the mandatory word. As he says, the king is Dharma Pravartaka. First, the king has to follow completely prescribed in Dharma only. He has to Pravartana of Dharma. He has to improvise the dharmic nature in the Rajas. Here, throughout the life, Kautilya has not mentioned Chandragupta Maurya's name or Magadha kingdom. He only depicts the ideal king and ideal kingdom. Here, he prioritized the human effort. As he says, one who consults the stars, Jyotisham, etc., he's a foolish man. He must not depend very much on this, and Purusha Prayatna, it is most important. There are 14 areas in Arthashastra as qualifications and duties of the king, responsibilities of the king, responsibilities of the head, and penalties, law for citizen, foreign policy, working plans of a conqueror, etc. All these are very, very depicted here. And I am very much aware of the time shortage given, and I have to consolidate as much as I can do in the limited hour. So I am focusing on the most important factors. Okay? First comes the king. Kautilya says he is the first citizen of the empire. We can compare now as the president is the first citizen. Our prime minister ಅಧಿಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವುದನ್ನು ನಾವು, if we consider that. Though he is the first citizen, but he is the servant of the state, he says. Praja Prabhutva. Here, Prajaha, Aure, they are the Prabhus. Now also it is prevalent in the book. Okay. So our emperor, he has to serve the state. This is the one and the only reason and cause for the benefit of the empire. And what are all the qualifications? He must be scholar in Vedas, economics, and science of politics, etc., etc. It applies naturally. And he must be a great warrior. Work schedule for the king is described here very neatly from dawn to dusk. He should allow unrestricted entrance to people willing to see, no postponement. And he has to attend every urgent matter at once. Kala. Chanakya gives prominent importance to Kala, Samaya. There's no wastage of time. The king has to look after each and every, and especially in urgent cases. And surprisingly, the king gets the salary of 48,000 panas. He has right to spend this amount only. It is very rare. And nowadays we cannot imagine. He has to look after entire kingdom. How can? He has only 2 eyes. He can see only the things happening in front of him. So that's why Kautilya says, Pratyaksha Parokshanumeyahi Rajavrittihi. Raja's vritti, it depends upon Pratyaksha and Paroksha also. Paroksha, how can he get knowledge? From ministers, from Gudacharas, from other well-wishers. He has to get the information. Once again, Kautilya says the king has to be dharmika. If the king is dharmika, the prajas will also be dharmikas. As the king, so the subjects. Yatha raja, tatha praja. Kautilya next explains what are all the basic elements of the state. I have already told all these things. We can compare with the present situation. First, the king, the officials, territory, port, army, treasury, and allies. These are all the basic elements. If they are good, the empire will sustain, he says. And after the king comes the degree of ministers. How the appointment has to be taken? He says, one and the only king, even though he is so much talented, so much hardworking, he cannot do everything. He says, Sahaya sadhyam rajatvam chakramekam na vartate kurvita sachivas tasmat tesham cha shruyan matam. He says, one wheel, it's of no use. We have to take the other assistances. We have to appoint ministers. And after the appointment, we have to listen to their matas, abhipraya. And then the king has to conclude what to do, what not to do. The king should appoint the ministers by dharmopada, arthopada, kamopada. These are all the methods. The chief minister, he has to pass through all these tests along with his qualifications. These are all the extra tests for them. He says, Natveva kuryadatmanam devi dva lakshmishwaraha shaucha hetor amatyanam etat kautilya darshanam. He says, when the tests are going on, the king and the queen, they should not be set as targets. Because if it comes in anybody's mind or brain, the disasters may happen. ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ಯಾವ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ಧರ್ಮ ಅರ್ಥ ಕಾಮದ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ರಾಜ ತನ್ನನ್ನ ಮತ್ತು ರಾಜರನ್ನ ರಾಣಿಯನ್ನ ಒಳಪಡಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳಬಾರದು. ಈ ಕೌಟಿಲ್ಯ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್. And once ministers have been appointed, then what are their duties? Important functions of Mantri Parishad. Mantri Parishad, group of mantris. Okay. First point, initiation of the works not begun. As soon as they met, the first work is initiation of the work not begun. Yava kelasa prarambha agilla. Let us begin first. So then, is it closed? No. In one section, they have to start. In another section, completion of the works already begin. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತಹ ಕೆಲಸಗಳನ್ನ they have to complete as early as possible accurately. And in another part, what are all the works completed? They have to be improvised. Progression of the works are important. All these works, they have to be done simultaneously. Okay? And apart from this, right execution of the rules passed, it is very much important. The king may pass so many welfare activities, welfare funds released, but what is the use if that money, that plan will not come to the last person? So, right execution of the rules passed, it is very much important. And along with this, general supervision on public administration of the state. These are all the main functions of Mantri Parishad. They have to do. One important keynote, key word, Kautilya insists, ಪದೇ ಪದೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಏನದು? ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ಕರ್ತವ್ಯ ಪರತೆ, ಪ್ರಾಮಾಣಿಕತೆ. Responsibility from the king till the last worker. Everybody must do his prescribed work in prescribed time. No concession is given even to the king. And administration hierarchy of every department. I'm saying this to one department and it applies to every department. The main topmost position, he will be Mahamatra, departmental head. Then comes Collector General. Next, Commissioner. Next, Chief Superintendent. Next, Chief Officer. Then comes Karanika, then clerks, and then comes attendants and peons. There are 33 sections, departments distributed for the welfare of the empire. Okay, now also we have Abakari Ilake, Revenue Ilake, Gruha Ilake, Aranya Ilake. Then also he had 33 sections. And once again, I will tell you, due to shortage of time, I am adhering some points to summarize you. I am taking one section of the department, that is superintendent of courtesans, prostitutes. We will not see this type of department now also. Kautilya explains elaborately. No doubt should be there. He prescribes 1,000 panas salaries to a courtesan at King's Court, but she has to acquire some qualities. She must be beautiful. She must be well versed in Lalita Kalas. She must be well educated and cultured. So she can be appointed in the King's Court. And Kautilya gives one option also. It's very surprisingly. If she want to regain liberty, if she go out of this prostitutism, she has to pay 24,000 panas to regain her liberty. Of course, the amount is high, but we must notice that there was a provision. And courtesans of good conduct, they could have attended the harem, helping princess and doing other works. The superintendent has to keep account of the payment by the visitors. And one thing, we have to appreciate Kautilya. He says, if one behaves against her will or hurts her mother, etc., he was punishable. On the other hand, if she cheats the person, she should be fined. No excuse on either parts. And the other works assigned for courtesans, they can be employed for spying, killing their opponents, Vishaprashana, Vishakanya. We know that names very well. And what about the future of their sons? Kautilya says they should be trained in various art forms so that they can get occupation and they can uphold their family livelihood and they can live happily. Aged courtesans, they were opted to work in harem, that's Antapura, art temple, etc. So nobody was neglected. From a small boy till aged courtesan, every person has the right to live respectfully. Here, Kautilya has led guidelines for professional service providers as courtesans, and he arranged a revenue to the state from this department. He made every rule to get the benefit for the upliftment of the empire. There's no doubt, single doubt in that. And when we come to officials, when an officer brings more revenue and is honest, he should be encouraged. Because one who is doing his work perfectly and he is the cause for the extra revenue for the treasure, he has to be appreciated. He says, and another thing, at the same time, if an official continues in the same position for a long time, it he specifies the word accurately. It may lead to misappropriation of funds and transfer. So, after some period, the official, though he was working as an efficient and honest worker, he has to be transferred. He has to go to other section, other work for the safety of him, his job, and for the country. He says the officials also include charas, gudacharas. He says, Rajano chara shikshushaha. ರಾಜನಿಗೆ ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು ಈ ಎರಡು ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು ವಿಶೇಷ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಚಾರರೇ ಕಣ್ಣುಗಳು. ಆ ಚಾರರು ಯಾರ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು? Who can become spies? They must be very well trained. They must be learned fellows. And at any cost, they should not reveal the facts of this empire. He included women and orphans also in this section, who was scholars in many languages, women, religious life, etc. And another interesting thing, these spies appointed in our king's empire, they were working on the enemies or other friends' empire. They were getting salary on both sides. In our state and the enemies or friend state, that was the provision. And Kautilya, he doesn't hesitate. ಆ ಸ್ಪೈಸ್ನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನ ತನ್ನ ವಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಿದ್ದ ವಿತೌಟ್ ದೇರ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ನೋಟ್. And regarding the corruption and punishment of the officials, I am saying, okay, the king seeking the orderly maintenance of subjects should ever hold the danda. The king, he must be dandadhara, even though he may use or may not use. As ಪೊಲೀಸರು ಲಾಠಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡೇ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಲಾಠಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದ ನಾವು ಹೋಗಿ ಎದುರಿಗೆ ಗಲಾಟೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಭಯ ಪಡುತ್ತೆ. So the king was holding the danda. He is dandadhara. Seeing that nobody cannot violate the rules, the penal code in Kautilya's Arthashasthra, it was very severe, very severe. Many ascribe him as very cruel person with respect to the punishment section. He says, as it is impossible not to taste honey that is at the tip of the tongue, so are the officials. ನಮ್ಮ ನಾಲಿಗೆಯ ತುದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಜೇನನ್ನ ಇಟ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ತಿನ್ನಬಾರದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ರುಚಿ ಅದಾಗೆ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗೇನೆ ಅಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಟೆಂಪ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ and it's not unusual, he says, but if it becomes usual, you have to pay fine and you will be punished, he says. Nearly 300 offenses with the fines, they were imposed as ascribed in Kautilya's Arthashasthra. I will say one or two examples. For cutting of sacred trees, the trees should not be cut. ವೃಕ್ಷವನ್ನ ಯಾವತ್ತು ಬೆಳೆಸಬೇಕು. Yes, we are suffering from what now? ವಾಯು ಮಾಲಿನ್ಯ. From cutting all the trees, ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. Then, but ಈ ಪನಿಷ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಮಗೆ ಭಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಪನಿಷ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದ್ರು ನಮಗೆ ಸಿಗೋದು ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೋ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ cutting of sacred trees are cruelty against domestic animals. If one does this, what are all the punishments? Cutting of hand and feet. No excuse. It was the punishment. If one cuts the sacred trees, he may get the punishment of cutting off his hands or his feet. So nobody has dareness to cut the sacred trees. And capital punishment for serious offenses like betrayal of national interest, sex offenses, etc., etc. His main principle is eye for an eye, kannige kannu. If one puts fire for the another one's house, what was the punishment? His own was set to fire without any doubt. If one kills another person by drowning in the river, he was drowned. And the Nyaya system, Vilamba, no Vilamba, 50 years back in the case, 50 years ನಂತರವೂ ಅದೇ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದಲ್ಲಿ this is a very unusual, unique structure. Punishment as early, very much early as possible. An eye for an eye, it is mandatory, no excuse. And let's come to the point of the harem, Antahpura. The queen mother and the queen, they had right to receive 48,000 panas. ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು? What were they doing for that amount? They could have gifted that money to some pious persons, old persons, or whatever they wish in that money. It was like the FD. And the princess and the Rajamata, they would be very happy because we have to consider that financial on the ground, it boosts our energy. Financial freedom, if we have some money, it gives us confidence. So this amount was given, and of course Kautilya says freedom to spend money was given. But where should they spend? he very much clearly says each woman should live in the place assigned to her. She cannot go outside. She cannot go to the market to purchase the things. Or in the harem, in Antapura only, she cannot meet the other queen's harem, Antapura. Was very strong restriction was there. The king has ordered to keep them away from ascetics, buffoons, etc. Why? You see, we appoint spies to go to enemies and other friends, country, harem, king's court, etc. in the disguise of ascetics, buffoons, sadhus, etc. Likewise, their countryside also happens. They also come into our country and our Antapura. That's why the king has ordered never entertain sadhus or buffoons into Antapura. Who are all looking after these Antapura persons? Old men, Kanchukis. They are very learned and they know what to tell, what not to tell, when, where to tell, everything they know. And they report every unusual matter occurred in Antapura to the king. They were always there, and women and inches, Napumsaka, it's like that. They were regulating all the affairs. And the palace should have secret passages, underground chamber, etc. Why? If at all the enemy king conquers the emperor, ಅಂತಃಪುರಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು ಅವನು ದಾಳಿಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ದ, then what about the queens? So, to avoid from their attack, secret passages and underground chambers were built to rescue queens. Okay? And the fire could not destroy the walls of Antapura. It was built so accurately. The civil engineering and architectural designing was so advanced that the walls of the Antapura, anybody cannot burn fire. It was so strong. And the last thing, the king should be careful in the harem also, in Antapura also. Why? The king has to work from morning to night, and he comes to take rest to Antapura. Then also, he cannot take rest completely. Even in his Antapura, even with his queen. How come? Why Kautilya says this? It's like surprising. But Kautilya says, this is not at all surprising. He quotes some examples. One queen killed his own husband, king, in Antapura, giving poison. Another king was killed by his prince and his queen in the harem only. So, the king has to be very, very careful in Antapura also for his Atma Rakshanartha. He has to keep weapons in Antapura also. What's the tragedy? But it happens. The king has to take his prevention methods for his benefit. Okay? And let's come to the marriage system. That's to the common people aspect. Okay, marriage precedes all the Vyavaharas. It means when one marries, he can work, he can go on Vyavahara, he has right to do. And woman of 12 years, we cannot say 12 years of woman. She's still girl for us. And 16 years for man. With that much also we cannot say 16 years as boy. But at that time, women of 12 years and men of 16 years, they were getting their majority and they could be married. Okay. And there were 8 forms of marriages, as he says. And before also it was prevailing. Brahma, Prajapatya, Arsha, Daiva. And Gandharva, Asura, Rakshasa, Paishacha. All these are 8 forms of marriages. And even married, Kautilya says, and now this discussion is going on in some cases in judiciary section now. No man should have sex with his wife even against her will. It is very astonishing. He is very clear. She has the right to comply. That much of swatantra was there. And at the time of marriage, many would have given jewelry to her mother, her father-in-law, whoever may be, or relatives. All jewelry which she possesses is exclusively her own property. Her husband has no right to take them. That means at the time of emergency, she could use that. Now also, we use the jewelry at the time of emergency. Isn't it? Certainly. And they have given the opportunity of freedom. She can use this jewelry for maintenance of the family when the husband does not provide, or when the husband has gone outside for a number of months. She can use it. Surprisingly, remarriage was accepted with conditions applied. We have to remember all these rules were made 321 BC. He does not encourage remarriage, but he has given provision to remarriage. If an husband is of bad character, or a traitor to the king, or like he may put an end to his life of his wife, or lost virility, his wife may abandon him. She may get divorced from him. So, Kautilya offers divorce on certain conditions as mutual enmity. If both accept, then the divorce will be given. I always mention due to certain conditions. Yes, a woman can claim maintenance for food and clothing or more in proportion to the income of the maintainer. Even now we can see at divorce cases, the woman, she opts for maintenance of her life from her husband. If she opts for second marriage, she should return all the things her husband or father-in-law has given to her when she remarries, not when she opts, but when she remarries, she has to return all the things. Okay. And there is other options also. Actually, I cannot say everything I have already mentioned. If the husband has gone abroad for a long time, or if has become ascetic or sadhu, santa, his wife, if she is having no issues, she should wait for the period of 7 months. If she has issues, kids, she should wait for 1 year. If he doesn't come, if she get any, if she did not get any news from him, she can marry. Who? His brother. If his brother is not there, his relative. Kautilya is very, very clear. He clearly says to whom she should marry, or whom she should not marry. That also it tells. And punishment, these punishments are for the family purposes. Already what I have told, that punishments they are for officials. And this punishment, I will list some of the examples. If one, he defiles a maiden or girl before her maturity, he should have his hands cut off or fined. Okay? If she dies in this case, he should be put to death. No excuse. No court issues for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. No. Immediately, it was put into action. If a woman murders a man, he illustrates all the options, or kills her own child in the womb, Garbhapata, she should be drowned in the river. No excuse. And if a man or woman, under the infatuation of love, anger, or other sinful passions, if he or she commits suicide with stress, with the pressure of that point, that second's time, if he or she commits suicide, what was the punishment? Of course, she or he, they have died. Then what will be the punishment? He says, he or she, that's the dead body, it should be dragged by a road along the public road. It should be dragged by a road. Along the road, main road. Why? Everybody should see this. They should get bhaya from this. And they should not do suicide. Of course, this is for their welfare. He says, Atmahatya is not at all good for anybody at any circumstances. Time changes, circumstances change. They may get good time, good opportunities. The main thing is they have to wait and watch. And Atmahatya, it is not at all the fruit. Okay. And I have some concern. Let us see. Any torture should not be applied to a pregnant woman and to one who delivered a child 1 month. And this says he has given excuse for a pregnant woman and a lady who has delivered a kid only for 1 month. Afterwards, the punishment she has to incur, and no excuse whether she's lady or age or whatever it may be, no excuse. Yes. Finally, the theme of the work. He says, Sukhasya Moolam Dharmaha. What's the origin of Sukha? Dharma only, not any other instruments, not any other means. One has to get Sukha from Dharma only. He ascribes this to the emperor, but it refers to all of us also. Dharmasya Moolam Arthaha. How we have to perform Dharma? Through Artha. Arthasya Moolam Rajyam. How can we get money? From our income, from our salary, whatever it may be. But for the king, it is Rajyam. How can Rajya will be sustained to the emperor? He says, Rajyasya Moolam Indriya Jayaha. We have to acquire control in our Indriyas, Panchendriyas. When we acquire control in our Indriyas, Rajyasya Moolam, ನಮ್ಮ income ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, we will get the salary, we will be benefited. And Indriya Jayasya Moolam Vinayaha. How can we control our senses? It's very, very difficult and actually highly impossible in many cases, in many circumstances. But how come it's possible? Through Vinaya. Vinaya means not we know the word as Vinaya. Vinaya means education. Education means also not the present education system. Through the proper knowledge of all the scriptures, Vedas, Upanishads, Vedangas, everything, after learning all this, Indriya Jaya is possible. This is the small gist, bird's eye view that I can explain you. And rather than explaining, we are interacting. I would be very happy if you would have in my front seats. We could have interacted more and more. We could have benefited more and more. But this is the modern Anukulakara Paddhati that we have to incorporate due to the time management, work management. We have to go on online also. Yes, the theme of the work I have concluded, and totally the conclusion lines about Kautilya. He was a guide, wonderful guide, statesman, economist, everything. He built an empire from scratch. There was nothing and nothing. How could he achieve this? Sama, Dana, Bheda, and the Danda strategies at the right time, at right situation. Okay. Though the kingdom was monarchy, Magadha Samrajya, he made all the small provinces into one big empire. And it was called as monarchy. But democratic administrative machinery was existence. Prajaprabhutva was existence, as we all know now. Lastly, at last shloka, he says, who composed this? Everybody know Kautilya composed this, but he stresses. Yena shastram cha shastram cha nandaraja gata cha puho. Amarsheno dhrutyanyashu tena shastramidam krutam. One who snatched away the shastra, and the land from Nandas. He composed this, he says. Okay? Thank you, one and all.